Hello, everyone. Welcome to Higher View. I'm Pastor Malcolm.
And I'm Alicia.
How you doing, Alicia?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. The Higher View is a program where we talk about subjects from God's point of view, which is the highest point of view.
Yep.
We're excited to be here with y'all. It's been a while since we've been on together. There's definitely been a delay, but sometimes if you wait, good things happen. And
That's
so
right.
uh, which excuse me, my voice is trying to go out.
That's okay.
That leads us into today's topic is delay. You had mentioned the other day that you thought that would be a good thing to talk about, and as I thought about it more, it was like, yeah, I think we could do something with that.
Yeah, it's something that I believe we both have been walking through lately and have a lot of experience with, it feels like.
Yeah.
And so, I had listened to this podcast and I was like, oh man, this is so good. It really spoke to me. And when I mentioned it to Malcolm for being a topic for the higher view, he was like, yeah, and as we were talking about it, we were like, oh yeah, that's good. So hopefully everything will be said that we need to say tonight. So
Yeah, when we think about delay, we want something, or we feel like we need something, or we feel like God has told us something and it just hasn't quite happened.
yeah.
And it can be really frustrating. Like you say, it feels like we're experts in that. We have things that we've been praying and seeking for, and it's like, okay, God, it hasn't quite happened yet. And so, um, but it's like, what do you do when that situation?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? And how you handle that decides if you're going to have victory or you're going to end up being defeated in it. And so there's a lot of stories in the Bible of delay. There's a lot of angles we can look at. Or where do you want to start?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that really spoke to me about this podcast and the title of it was the value of delay.
mm,
And I don't know that we necessarily think of delay as having value, but as I listened and I pondered and, God really spoke to me that, yeah, I mean, there is value in delay. God can do a lot and there's a purpose for it. And so if you are walking through a season right now where you've been praying and praying and praying and trying to do things that you think may help it along and trying to do things that you thought maybe God told you to do, or, you are doing what you feel like God's telling you to do, and it's just hard to wait. Um, you're not alone, and there's value in it, and God is going to use it for your good. And so there's, just some things that we wanted to share to hopefully maybe shift your perspective on it or encourage you with it. And one thing, very practical example is, Malcolm, if I could give you $1,000 today or $2,000 in 30 days, which one would you choose?
I think me personally, I'm gonna take the two later, but I think the answer normally is gonna be, "Give me my money right now."
I think it depends on the person,
Yeah,
because for me, originally, it was, no, I'm taking the $2,000 in 30 days, because I know that if I can just wait just a little bit longer, I know that there's gonna be more. And
yeah,
so it was like, unless there was a pressing need that I had right away, of course, then I would take the $1,000, like, instead of going into debt or something.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it was just like, yeah, but I think it depends on the person. There are some people who would just jump on that right away. I see that in court a lot whenever we have people, coming in to sell their structured settlements.
Mhm.
And so, it's like they can't wait. And to hear the amount of money that they're giving up for the amount of money that they have, it's just like crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the when you put it in just saying waiting and God's gonna take care of you, it's one thing, but like when you say there's value in it and when you start looking at it that way, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yes, as I'm waiting, I'm able to get stronger, like if if you have 30 days to get in shape, and then they give you another 30 days, it's like, oh, why, cool, that gives me more time to do it, more time to get, to get stronger. And that's, normally what happens. I think a lot of times if we got exactly what we wanted when we wanted it, we would end up losing that thing. I would have lost my ministry, or or my heart for it,
Yeah.
without having that time of letting God um, reveal my character, reveal areas that need to get stronger, areas that really, like you said, I could just grow in, areas that I just literally had to get, you have to take care of this, or there's no going to the next level.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
there's so much value in that. And so just getting automatically what we want when we want, and that takes away from the trust aspect we're able to build with God. Because if I'm just able to just go buy the car I want and go do this or that, I never have to trust God is going to actually deliver. And I never get to see him actually do it, do it for me. And I could share so many testimonies of me trying to make something happen, and just not fail, it's not working right. Or if I would have just waited a little bit longer, like there was a sale on this, or there was,
Yes.
uh somebody's like, hey, I got this for you, and it's like, oh, I just got that, and it's like, oh, and it's just like jumping ahead just that little bit. And in the Bible, we
Yeah.
know David was, anointed, he was going to be king when he was a kid, and yet he had to go back out to the field, and we know he ends up, killing Goliath. And next, he's around, King Saul. And but then, the jealousy and stuff happens, and now he wants to kill David. And there's a time where David's running from them. They're trying to kill David, and David like sneaks up on him, cuts off a part of his robe. And later on, and he was trying to show him like, I could have killed you if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But then later he realized, like, man, like that was wrong, I shouldn't have done that.
Hmm.
I kind of showed him up, I embarrassed him. And on one hand, David could have thought, well, he's chasing me, trying to kill me, so I can just kill him and I can become king just like God anointed me. But that would have taken away from seeing that, he waited a little bit longer. He ended up becoming king, and it was in a better light. It wasn't in a way of just blood all over it.
Right. Right. And like kind of going back to, I mean, that's obviously good. Like he wouldn't have started out on the right foot if he killed Saul, he would have started out bad. And obviously that's not what God wanted to happen. And then also the story in Moses where he goes up on the mountain, to talk with God. And while the people are waiting for him to come back, they build a golden calf, they build this idol. And it's like that kind of, so while they're waiting, God revealed that in their heart, that they were impatient, that they, while instead of waiting on what God had told, what God was doing, they go and try and do it themselves. And so they wouldn't have known that that would have happened if, Moses hadn't gone up to the mountain, and they wouldn't have had to wait. And so that's just like an example of where God revealed something to them in their waiting.
And with that story too, they should have taken that moment of being so impatient and realizing, man, we're not trusting God. We need to learn how to trust
Exactly.
God and believe in him, because it ends up costing them in the end not going into the promised land,
Yep.
not learning to trust in God. And
Yep.
it's interesting because God delivered them out of Egypt. They crossed the Red Sea.
Yeah.
He's dropping food. He's doing all this stuff, but yet they're just not at the destination that they want to be.
Yep.
And so they are, eventually it's like, what, we're gonna make our own God. It's taking too long, or we're just gonna complain and gripe instead of saying, man, we blew it, but we're having another opportunity, chance to trust God, and we're gonna use that to go into the promised land. And so they end up dying because they were not patient, and they didn't trust God. And so,
Yeah.
and we can look at them and say, man, that was dumb, but I've been there too, where I've been not
Yes.
trusting God and not patient. And luckily, I didn't end up dying, but it's cost me relationships or, hurting somebody. God, yes, God can heal, God can fix, but it's like, man, if I would have just done it the right way the first time, what they say, measure twice and cut once.
Yes,
Like
they
that,
do.
that is
Mm.
really what it comes down to.
It is. It is. And so like I guess some practical things that you can do while you're in the waiting, right? Is kind of just what Malcolm was saying. Like instead of looking around and trying to figure out, okay, let me back up a little bit. I guess the first thing you do is make sure that what you heard is God and what God has told you. And
Hmm.
when you know
Yeah.
beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what God said, you hold on to that and only do what God tells you to do. Don't look and say, well, what can I do here? Or what can I do there? Or what can this person do for me? Is there anything I can do to help speed this along? If God doesn't tell you to do it, you don't do it. And the way that you figure that out is you get in his word, you minimize your distractions around you. These are just some practical things I've been doing. I'm very
Mhm.
careful about the things that I watch, the things that I'm listening to, the people that I'm talking to, or the conversations that I'm having with people, and because I don't want to go down, even just for myself, go down a road, a thought process, a rabbit trail in my brain of just these thoughts that make me miserable.
Yeah.
That just make me miserable. That's not helping anything. And so just focusing on God and getting, into his presence and building yourself up, just
Yep.
getting with those like-minded people, your friends, just going out for a walk in nature, whatever you can do to help make you happy and keeping your mind fixed on what God said and reminding yourself of things that God's done for you in the past. That helps you stay that course.
As you were talking, you said to hold on if you know it was God, because God's promises are yes and amen every time. God's going to come through with his promises. And I remember hearing a story. I think it might have been during healing school or something, but one time somebody, I think they had cancer, and God told them, just to believe, and he was going to take care of it, and he did. And it was another time somebody had it, and they decided they were just going to believe, and it was like, no, you're supposed to get,
Right.
and they were like, no, I'm not going to do medicine.
Right.
I got this. And they end up dying. And
Yep.
it's like, hold on to the promise that God has for you. Listen to the way he says to do it. If he tells you to go to this mountain, you go to that mountain. You don't pick another mountain. If he tells you to cross this river or whatever it is, you hold on to the what word God has for you, which word he tells you to hold on to. And then once you get that word from him and you hold on to that, it's going to end up happening. God is going to always come through with his promise. So I definitely agree with you. That just came to me when you were speaking about
Mhm.
things that we can do.
Yeah, no, it's good. I know for me personally too, I'll just kind of sit there and be like, okay, when I'm praying, God, what do you want me to
Mhm.
do in this? This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. This is what practically, I think, the world would tell me to do, whatever. What do you want me to do? Highlight what you want me to do. Make it crystal clear for me what you want me to do, and let me forget or just not be able to do the things that I'm not supposed to do. And even if
Yeah.
it looks opposite what the world's telling you should do, or even what other Christians are telling you to do,
Mhm.
if it doesn't sit right, if you don't have peace about it, that's not what God's telling you to do.
Yeah. I think one thing we have to remember, there's a story in Daniel, and Daniel prays to God, and he doesn't hear back from him. He's like, what is going on? And he ends up having to wait 21 days. And then finally the word comes from the Lord. And he was like, God heard you, right? In the
Mhm.
thing, it says that God heard you right when you prayed, but there was, other stuff going on. So we couldn't get the word to you. And so
Yeah.
believe that God hears you
Yeah.
when you pray. God hears you, and God's listening, and God is not asleep. And it's like, oh man, God's asleep up there. Let me, like, maybe I need to pray
Right.
again. It's like, no, he heard you. And he's on it, and he's going to deliver the message to you. He's going to speak it to you however way. And God is a great communicator, right? He can do it through a TV show, through a Bible verse, through a song, through a child, through an older person, through a
Through a
dream, a
dream.
vision.
Yep.
Like, God can communicate to you, excuse me. But just you have to believe I hear from him, and that he's a father that cares. And the last story that I'm just thinking of, we were talking about, if you get everything you want, you probably lose it. I think about the prodigal
Oh
son.
yeah.
He rushed the inheritance instead of waiting until it was rightfully his. He got it early and squandered it all. Luckily, the father was there when he came back to him to wrap him up, to show him he still loves him and all that. But he ended up having to live in a pig's pen and eat pig's food when he didn't have to. And I think that happens to a lot of us when we get impatient and in the delay. And so trust God in those moments. Trust that if it's 30 days, 60 days, a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, God is not a God who would lie. God is going to keep his promises, and God it keeps his promises. He's going to take care of you. And so you have to hold on to his word and trust in him and believe that there's value in this time.
Yeah. If we got just kind of to reiterate what you said, if we got everything that we wanted, everything that we just thought would be awesome, we wouldn't turn to God for anything.
Yep.
We wouldn't pray. And I think the most important thing to God is our relationship with him. He doesn't necessarily care so much about the thing. He
Yep.
cares about your relationship with him and the journey towards that thing. And, it all matters to him, not just the end result, which sometimes, we just want that thing right now and we want to make it happen right now. But there's value in developing and building your relationship with God. So adding that on to that.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. You have anything else you want to add?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything. I think we got
Yeah.
it across.
Yeah, I just pray for anyone who's listening, who's going through that,
Yeah.
that you'll be strengthened by this, that this will hearing these different stories in the Bible of God, the stories in our lives, how God, how we've had to wait, and sometimes we got it wrong, sometimes we got it right, and that you would truly just decide, today's the day, I'm going to trust him no matter what. Even if I blew it, I'm getting back on track of trusting him, and God's going to come through, and it's going to be so much better because I was able to see God do it and not me do it.
Yep. You're not alone. You haven't gone too far. You didn't screw it up. God can change anything and turn it around for exactly what he has planned for you. So we hope that this blessed you, helped you, encouraged you. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I do miss doing this, and I hope to be able to get back to doing it more consistently soon. We would love it if you would like our videos, share our videos with anyone that you think this may help or encourage. And we just hope that you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.